I always believed the worst kind of betrayal came from strangers, until my father walked into our family living room, holding hands with my best friend from high school. She smiled at me like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't once promised to be my maid of honor someday, like she hadn't cried on my shoulder when her first love broke her heart. And now, she was marrying my father. Just 3 months after my mother's ashes were laid to rest, I stood there, frozen, trying to remember. The last time I felt safe in my own house, trying to understand how my dad, the man who once packed my lunch and called me his little star, could look me in the eye and say, "This isn't betrayal, it's love. Love." No, love doesn't erase boundaries. Love doesn't erase memories. Love doesn't erase me. But that was only the beginning, because what I uncovered next would shatter what little I had left of my family. And in the end, the person who helped me fight back was the one I least expected. Let me ask you something. If your own parent chose your best friend over you, what would you do? Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. That way, if life pulls you away before the end of this story, you'll always be able to come back. And trust me, this one is worth hearing to the very last word. Lily and I met when we were just 11 years old. She was the new girl in town, all freckles and wild hair, sitting alone on the school bus with her knees pulled to her chest. I remember the way she looked up at me cautious, like someone who'd been taught not to trust easily. I sat down next to her anyway. That moment changed both our lives. From that day forward, we were inseparable. We shared everything, our snacks, our secrets, even the same pair of jeans once during a sleepover. We promised each other we'd be maids of honor at our weddings. She used to say I was the sister she never had. I used to call her my forever person. Lily didn't have an easy life. Her mom left when she was a baby, and her dad, well, let's just say no child should have to learn fear that young. So she spent a lot of time at my house. My mom would make her pancakes on Sunday mornings. My dad would fix her bike whenever it broke. Our home became her escape. And to me, she became family. I remember the day we graduated high school. We held hands as we walked across the stage, wearing the same heels and matching lipstick we picked out together. That night, we sat on the hood of my car, staring at the stars and crying about how we'd miss each other when I left for college. She stayed in town. I left for Boston, but we called every week. She'd tell me about her new job, her new haircut, the guy at the coffee shop who smiled at her every morning. I told her about dorm drama and midterms and how much I missed Mom's lasagna. Distance never changed us. Or so I thought when Mom passed away suddenly last spring. Lily was the first one to call. She drove straight to the hospital, holding my hand through every minute of goodbye. She helped plan the funeral, folded the guest cards, and hugged my dad like he was her own. She cried with us. She stood beside me as I placed roses on my mother's casket. She promised me we'd get through this. Together, I believed her. Because if you can't believe your best friend, who can you believe? That summer, I moved back home for a while to heal, to help Dad, to feel close to Mom again. Lily visited often. She brought groceries, made dinner a few nights, kept Dad company when I needed some air. At first I was grateful, but now, looking back, I realize that not all kindness comes without strings. And sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones holding the sharpest knives, because something changed that summer, something I didn't see. Or maybe, didn't want to see. It started small. So small, I almost didn't notice. One evening I came home from a walk and found Lily in the kitchen wearing my mother's apron. She was humming softly as she stirred something on the stove. Dad sat at the table smiling. He looked lighter, like someone who hadn't just buried the love of his life. At first I was touched. I thought Lily was just helping me, helping him, helping all of us survive the unbearable silence Mom had left behind. But then, the little things began to pile up. Lily started showing up even when I hadn't invited her. She had her own key, Dad said. It was just in case. Her toothbrush appeared in the upstairs bathroom. Her favorite coffee mug took the spot where Mom's used to sit. One afternoon, I opened the fridge and saw her almond milk with her name written on it in black marker. It felt territorial. Then came the night I overheard them laughing in the den. I was walking down the hall with a basket of laundry when I heard my dad say, "You always know how to make me feel alive again," followed by Lily's soft laugh. The same laugh she used when we used to gossip about high school crushes. My stomach twisted. I tried to tell myself it was innocent, that maybe grief makes people cling to whatever warmth they can find, that maybe I was being paranoid. But my gut said otherwise. One morning I went to pour myself a cup of coffee only to find the pot empty. Lily smiled and said, "Oh, sorry, I made some for just me and your dad. You were still asleep." She didn't even sound apologetic, just casual. Like it was normal now, her and my dad having coffee alone. She even started calling him R. That was new. Mom always called him Richard. I called him Dad. But Lily called him R, like they had some private language. Some inside joke I wasn't part of. The final straw came one evening. When I came downstairs and saw them sitting on the couch, too close, Lily's head was resting on his shoulder. His hand was on hers. I stopped, frozen on the last step. They didn't see me. Or maybe they didn't care. I stood there, numb. Long enough for my chest to ache. When Lily finally noticed me, she didn't flinch. She just sat up and said, "Oh hey, we were just watching one of your dad's old favorite movies?" Like nothing was wrong. Like nothing had changed, but everything had changed. I went to my room and shut the door. I sat on the floor, my back against the wall, and stared into nothing. I tried to remember the last time Lily and I had laughed the way we used to. I tried to remember the last time Dad had looked at me with the kind of warmth he now gave her. That night, I couldn't sleep, because something deep inside me whispered, this wasn't just grief. This was something else. And I was about to lose more than just my mother. I needed answers, so I did something I'd never done before. I went through Lily's phone. She had left it charging on the kitchen counter. Dad was out in the garage. She was upstairs taking a shower. I didn't plan it. My hands moved before. My conscience could catch up. The passcode was still the same, my birthday. She never changed it. She never thought she had to. At first I saw nothing unusual. Just photos of brunch, silly selfies, grocery lists. Then I opened her hidden album and everything, shattered. There were photos of her and my father laughing. Together at a vineyard I'd never been to. A cozy dinner at a place Mom used to love. A blurry shot of Lily curled up in my dad's arms on our back porch. But what hurt most was the date stamps. One of them was from 6 months before Mom passed away. Another a full year earlier. Another the week I left for college. They'd been seeing each other behind my back long before grief could be an excuse. I felt sick. My chest tightened. I sat down on the floor with the phone in my hands, shaking. This wasn't a new connection sparked by shared mourning. This was a long-running lie. And it wasn't just the photos. I scrolled through texts, messages with nicknames, late-night confessions, plans to keep things quiet until the time was right. I found one message from Dad that read, "Soon. We'll tell her, but I need you to be patient." That was sent 8 months ago. 8 months. 8 months of breakfasts, birthdays, and broken trust. 8 months of looking me in the eye, pretending I put the phone back exactly where I found it. My heart was pounding so loud I thought they'd hear it. I locked myself in the bathroom and cried until my face burned. Not just from betrayal, but from shame. Shame that I hadn't seen it sooner. Shame that I let her sit beside me at my mother's funeral. Shame that I had called her sister. Later that evening, Lily came into my room like nothing had happened. She sat on my bed and asked if I wanted to watch a movie. I looked at her, really looked, and I saw her smile. Not the soft, sheepish smile I grew up with, but a calm, practiced smile. A smile that knew exactly what it was doing. I didn't say anything, not yet. Because something inside me shifted. For the first time in this entire nightmare, I stopped feeling like the daughter who was being pushed aside, and started feeling like the woman who was going to take her power back. Because now I knew the truth, and knowing the truth was the first step to taking everything else back. I wish I could say I confronted them right then. I wish I had screamed, thrown the phone, demanded answers. But I did in single quotes T. Instead. I waited because I wanted to see how far they'd take it, how much more they'd lie, how far their little fantasy world would go before it shattered, and then they gave me more than I ever expected. It was a Saturday afternoon, rain tapping softly against the windows. I was in the kitchen pretending to read, but every nerve was alert. Lily had been pacing all morning. She kept checking her makeup, fluffing her hair, changing her shirt twice. Dad came home with a bottle of champagne. No groceries, just champagne. My stomach dropped. They asked me to join them in the living room. Said they had something exciting to share. I walked in and the room was perfectly staged. Candles, music, even the dog was wearing a little boatie. Lily stood by the fireplace. Dad stood beside her, holding her hand, and I sat on the couch, frozen in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Then it happened. He got down on one knee. Right there, in front of the mantel where Mom's urn still rested, in the very room where we used to put up our Christmas tree. He looked up at Lily with tears in his eyes and said, "You've made me feel alive again." Alive again? Like we were just a burden. Like Mom's memory was just a shadow he needed to step out of. I don't even remember the rest of his speech. I just remember Lily gasping and saying yes. And then they kissed right there. In the middle of our family home, like I didn't exist, like my mother never existed. They popped the champagne, offered me a glass. I took it. Because if I didn't, I was going to scream, and I didn't want to give them that satisfaction. Not yet. Instead, I smiled, nodded, said, "Congratulations," and then I excused myself. I went upstairs, closed the door, sat on the floor with the glass still in my hand and cried. But it wasn't the same kind of cry anymore. This time it wasn't just grief, it was fury. Rage that hummed just beneath the surface like a current dot, because now I knew. This wasn't just betrayal, it was invasion. They had taken our memories, our spaces, our rituals, and turned them into their own twisted fairy tale. And worst of all, they thought I'd go along with it. They truly believed I'd be happy for them. That I'd raise a toast to the woman who kissed my father, while my mother still wore her wedding ring. That I'd help plan the wedding like some kind of maid of honor. They didn't know me at all, but they were about to. Something didn't sit right. Even after the proposal, after the champagne, after the hollow laughter echoing off the walls, I couldn't shake the feeling. Lily. She smiled too much. She acted too sweet. She tried too hard to be material. So I started watching quietly, closely. And then, by accident, I found that Dad left his laptop open one night in the kitchen. I wasn't snooping. Honestly, I just wanted to check the weather. But when I moved the mouse, an email popped up. From a lawyer subject line, prenup clause, discussion, urgent. I froze. Clicked it. What I read made my stomach turn. Lily had requested changes to the prenuptial agreement. Major changes. She wanted access to Dad's life insurance, a stake in the house, and get this partial control over the retirement account. She wasn't even married yet, and she already wanted the keys to the kingdom. I dug deeper. Opened a few more emails. There were messages between her and her sister, laughing about how easy this old man was to charm, saying things like, "Just a couple more months and I'll never have to work again." My hands were shaking. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was manipulation. Calculated, cold, cruel. She had played my dad like a fiddle, and worse, he didn't see it. Or maybe he didn't want to. He wanted to believe she loved him. He wanted to feel young again, wanted to replace the silence in the house with giggles and wine glasses clinking. He was lonely, and she fed on that loneliness. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. The next morning, I printed out the emails. All of them. Put them in an envelope, laid them on the dining room table. When Dad came down, I simply said, "Read this before you make the biggest mistake of your life." He looked confused, then angry, then heartbroken. He didn't speak for a long time. Later that day, he left the house. Didn't say where he was going, but I knew he went to her. He had to know if it was true, if the woman he was about to marry was using him. He was gone for hours. I sat alone in the kitchen listening to the ticking clock, waiting for the sound of the front door. When he finally came back, he didn't say a word. He just walked upstairs, closed his door, and locked it in. That told me everything. Sometimes silence is louder than screaming. Sometimes a locked door says more than 100 arguments. And in that silence, I felt it. The tide was shifting, but the war wasn't over. Not yet. Thank you for following along with this story. If you'd like to see what happens next or revisit this moment later, consider subscribing to the channel. There are more powerful stories waiting for you. I thought it was over. After that night of silence, after the locked door, after Lily disappeared from our lives for a few weeks, I thought he had come to his senses. He didn't talk about her, didn't return her calls. He stopped playing their favorite jazz records, stopped drinking red wine at dinner. For the first time in months, I felt like I had my father back. But then, I found the envelope. It was buried in a drawer in his study. I wasn't searching. I was looking for stamps. But what I pulled out instead made my heart drop. It was a copy of a revised will, signed, dated, witnessed, just 2 weeks ago. And guess whose name was listed as a primary beneficiary? Not me. Not even a charity. Lily. She would receive the house, the vacation property in Florida, a large portion of his investments, and me, a sentimental heirloom, a necklace that belonged to my mother. That's all. I sat there staring at the paper, my hands trembling. She hadn't just seduced him. She had outplayed him even after he knew the truth. She came back and he let her in. Maybe she cried. Maybe she apologized. Maybe she told him she was scared of losing him, that I had turned him against her. Whatever it was, it worked. He had gone behind my back, changed the will, and never said a word. I couldn't believe it. Not after everything I had shown him. Not after everything she had done. Was he that lonely? That desperate, or was I the one being naive? That night I confronted him. I didn't yell, didn't cry. I just placed the will on the kitchen counter and said, "I found it." He didn't deny it, didn't look surprised. He just stared at the paper and whispered, "I wanted to protect her from who?" I asked. "From you?" he said. That hit harder than any betrayal Lily could have delivered. He really believed I was the enemy. That I was jealous, bitter, trying to sabotage his happiness he truly believed. She loved him. I wanted to scream, but instead I just walked out that night. I didn't sleep. I kept thinking, was I wrong? Am I too protective? Too suspicious? But deep down, I knew the truth. And then something else happened. Lily called me. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail, and the moment I heard it, I knew this wasn't over. Her voice was calm. To calm, she said, I know you found the will, but trust me, that's just the beginning. You think you're smarter than me? You think you've won, sweetheart. I always play the long game. She ended it with a laugh. That cold, quiet laugh that used to echo through my childhood bedroom when we were girls. She hadn't just fooled Dad, she was mocking me, and worst of all, she still had him wrapped around her finger. This wasn't just a love story gone wrong. This was war, and I wasn't going to lose my father. Not like this. I couldn't sleep. Lily's voicemail kept echoing in my mind. I always play the long game. That's when I remembered someone else who used to say the exact same thing. My grandmother, she raised my dad. She taught him values, strength, and boundaries. And she never trusted charming women who smiled too wide years ago. Before she passed away, she gave me a small box. She said, you won't need this now. But one day when someone tries to take everything from your family, open it. Back. Then, I thought it was just sentimental. Some old photos. Maybe a letter. But that night, I dug it out from the closet, and when I opened it, I realized my grandmother knew people like Lily long before we did. Inside was a folded envelope, labeled in her handwriting. If ever in danger, contact him. It was a business card, an old, slightly faded one. A private investigator she had trusted in the past, so I called. And to my surprise, the number still worked. His name was Howard, mid-60s, retired. But when I explained the situation, he chuckled and said, sounds like the kind of trouble your grandma loved getting ahead of. Within 2 days, he was digging. Bank records, phone logs, travel history, and what he found was gold. Lily had another name, another identity, another life. In another state, she had been engaged to a wealthy older man. That man died suddenly, in a freak accident involving a staircase. And guess what? She inherited everything. No one pressed charges, but the family suspected her. Howard got me copies of their statements. He even tracked down a niece of the deceased man who described Lily as a snake in silk pajamas. I now had proof, but I needed more. Something undeniable. Something that would make Dad open his eyes. So, I followed my grandmother's next instruction. Tucked in the bottom of the box was a mini audio recorder. Old school, but still worked. Howard helped me plant it. Inside the guest bedroom where Lily always stayed when she came over, I waited. 3 nights later, she was back. She didn't know I was home. I stayed with a friend across town. The next morning, I retrieved the recorder, and what I heard was unforgivable. She was on the phone laughing, saying he signed the will. It's almost done. Once he adds the joint bank account, we're golden. He still thinks I'm pregnant too, idiot. My heart stopped. She was faking a pregnancy. She wasn't just manipulative, she was dangerous. That evening, I invited Dad to dinner. Just him and me. I said I wanted to apologize. Start fresh. No arguments. He seemed relieved, smiled, even brought flowers. Halfway through dessert, I played. The recording, I didn't speak. Didn't look at him. I let the words hit him in waves. At first, he didn't move. Then, he slowly set his fork down, closed his eyes, and whispered, "Oh my God, what have I done?" He finally saw her. Not the fantasy, not the girl from my childhood, not the fake comfort she wrapped around his grief, but the manipulator, the predator, the liar. I showed him the files, the inheritance. The past fiancé read every word in silence. Then he looked at me and cried. "Your grandmother warned me," he said. "She told me, never trust what comes too easy." And for the first time in months, we were a family again. K&T, LSCCI, Bohon, Kang, LS Riang, GGC Thuk, thesome truths never reach a courtroom. Some betrayals never carry legal consequences, but justice, sometimes it finds its own quiet way. The wedding between Lily and my father never happened. No music, no white dress, no guests tossing flowers. Just an empty house the next morning, Lily gone, with nothing but a packed suitcase and silence. I've seen families torn apart by emotional manipulation, but what stood out in this story was the moment clarity returned. A father who seemed lost in delusion. A daughter who nearly walked away from everything, and a grandmother long gone who still protected her family with quiet wisdom and love. Not everyone gets a memory box to guide them. But we all have a breaking point, a moment of awakening, and a strength we didn't know we hadn't till it's tested. What would you do if the person you trusted most turned out to be the one destroying your family? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every word because these aren't just stories. They're lessons people carry with them. And if this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next one. Each video is packed with secrets, with shocking twists, and quiet moments that stay with you long after the screen fades. If you're still here, you might want to watch our next video about an elderly mother who hid a heartbreaking secret for 40 years, until her locked room was finally opened. Some truths never reach a courtroom. Some betrayals never carry legal consequences. But justice? Sometimes it finds its own quiet way. The wedding between Lily and my father never happened. No music, no white dress, no guests tossing flowers, just an empty house. The next morning, Lily gone, with nothing but a packed suitcase and silence. I've seen families torn apart by emotional manipulation, but what stood out in this story was the moment clarity returned. A father who seemed lost in delusion, a daughter who nearly walked away from everything, and a grandmother long gone who still protected her family with quiet wisdom and love. Not everyone gets a memory box to guide them, but we all have a breaking point, a moment of awakening, and a strength we didn't know we hadn't till it's tested. What would you do if the person you trusted most turned out to be the one destroying your family? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every word because these aren't just stories. They're lessons people carry with them. And if this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next one. Each video is packed with secrets, with shocking twists, and quiet moments that stay with you long after the screen fades. If you're still here, you might want to watch our next video about an elderly mother who hid a heartbreaking secret for 40 years, until her locked room was finally opened.